Hello, and welcome to the Eddie Awards pre-show. I'm your host, John Thomas, and before we dive into the awards, we're going to kibitz a little, spend some time with our sponsors, and with your fellow editors. You know, I gotta tell you, the best part of performing for editors is that even when you don't make the cut, they still see your performance. But if you all can see me now, well, hell yeah, I made the cut! Now, I don't need to tell you that today's show is a little different than any other year. You may see it as a downgrade, but I think any show you can attend in your pajamas is a win. Even if you're accepting an award on screen today, it's fancy on top, but you don't need to be wearing pants. I'm actually not wearing anything at all right now. They just painted me bright green and put this tux on me in post. Speaking of men in tuxes, I'm very happy to kick off this pre-show by welcoming newly elected ACE President Kevin Tent for a quick chat about the past year and, more importantly, about the future. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, John.
Now, we have all been through quite a year. I don't think anyone could have predicted this. It really upended all of our lives. What do you think were some of the challenges that editors faced while working through the pandemic? Well,
probably the biggest challenge was not working. That must have been very tough for a lot of the editors who were just flat out of work. For those of us who were working part-time or even full-time, it was a real gift, I think. I know I was just happy to focus on something besides the pandemic going on around me, around all of us. Let's face it, it's been really tough for everybody, and it was depressing and isolating, and it was rough. But I think things are looking up. I really do. I listen to this podcast called This Week in Virology, and every time I listen to it, I go away feeling a little more positive about how things are going. So I think we're on our way out of this.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to check that out because I agree. I think we're finally rounding that corner, and I think we're finally getting to that light at the end of the tunnel. What do you think the future looks like once this all is behind us?
Well, I hope it's going to look a lot like how we were beforehand. It'll be different, I'm sure, but I hope that we're going to see movies in theaters with audiences. I hope that we're going to be at restaurants with friends, which I think this is all going to happen. And, I can't wait for the ACE holiday party, which I hope will also happen this year.
I hope so, too.
Yeah, I know. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, by the way. You are the new ACE president.
Yes. The editors made a horrible decision. But
well, there's no takebacks now, right?
Right.
Now, what do you hope to help and engage with the membership in your upcoming term?
Well, what I'd like to tell the membership and communicate to them is that this is their organization. Really, it really is. And the more active and involved they are, the stronger we'll be as a whole. So ACE is just so great right now. It's growing. We have Jenny running the office. We have a really creative board who are coming up with all sorts of ideas with new committees and how to get more members involved and engaged. And in fact, in June at our annual meeting, which will also be virtual this year, Troy Takaki and Sabrina Plisco came up with this idea of having a committee fair, which is great. And people will be able to log in on different committees and check them out and get involved or not get involved or come up with new ideas. So it'll be really great.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Exciting. All right, switching gears here a bit, I have to ask you, what are your favorite shows or movies from this past year? What have you been binging during the pandemic?
Well, I think all the films that are nominated and so many other films that I saw this year were really incredible. I think the editing and all this year's films and television shows was just fantastic. And then also I watched a lot of old movies this year, a lot of films from the 70s that I hadn't seen for many, many years, and old screwball comedies from the 40s. I kind of watched all sorts of stuff.
Sounds great. Fun. Yeah, a nice sampling, right?
Yes, it was, yeah.
You certainly had the time on your hands, right?
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much again for joining us. Congratulations again.
Thank you, John.
And we'll see you a little later on at the show.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet. We'd like to thank Adobe for supporting ACE during this crazy year and for always generously sponsoring our internship. They're devoted to supporting the next generation of our craft.
I'm Kirk Baxter. I was the film editor on Meg.
Do come in.
So there's an example coming up of how we use split screens and speed ups to kind of
What is that?
Sunlight.
keep the dialogue pace fast.
Where did the night go?
As Rita and Mank get into an argument,
Mankiewicz, please don't ask us to help you in this sad deception.
My deadline
rather
is
than having to
2 weeks
cut
away.
each time someone says something to kind of keep the pace up,
I do my best thinking before I fall asleep.
I stay on Rita for 2 lines
Tired of having my evenings
and then
end with
speed
the
up her
arrest
listening
of
part
being
in between,
struck on the head with a croquet mallet.
which makes the background run through frame, kind of obviously sped up. So we do a quick split, put her back in at real time, walking across,
You'll have my resignation in the morning.
and then no one notices that Rita has been sped up during her listening and keeps the whole thing moving. Keeps the whole thing moving at a very sharp clip.
One of the best things about this post-production community is how supportive they are of one another and how much they genuinely enjoy each other's work. Take a look.
Hi there. It turns out that this on-camera stuff is much, much harder than it looks.
One of the films I was excited to see on the nominee list this year was Minari, along with Nomadland for similar reasons. Both films showed so much patience with the cutting.
I started my editing career at Pixar, so I have to give a shout out to Soul.
Which was a really unexpected piece of work and prompted some very, very thoughtful conversations in our household.
Kevin Nolting and his editing team. A job well done and a fantastic film.
I wanted to give a shout out to Sound of Metal. I think it's incredibly moving and powerful. One of the things I loved about it was how it manages to keep us always engaged with the main character, sometimes through using devices to show us the world as he experiences it.
Trial of the Chicago 7. Alan did an absolutely stellar job with this film.
I wanted to give a shout out to my good friend Rosie Tan and the amazing work that she did on her Mr. Robot episode called Method Not Allowed. And if you've watched it, you know that that episode only has 2 lines of dialogue, one at the very beginning and one at the very end. And the rest of the episode is just all storytelling through visuals and sound.
It's Mark here, the editor on I Care A Lot. I'd like to give a shout out to the Queen's Gambit Exchanges and Michelle Tessereau. Great job, that was fantastic. And also you got my children back into chess, so thank you very much.
I just binge watched Ted Lasso, and I'm a huge fan.
The editing by Julio Perez and Nicola Boyanov of Euphoria, Trouble Don't Last Always, truly resonated with me.
I want to give my shout out to the nominees who kept me laughing all this time, the people who were working on Big Mouth, on Schitt's Creek, and on The Good Place. Everything I binge watched over the last year have really helped keep everything going.
Movies and TV have been such a coping mechanism for us in our family, and being able to be entertained, to laugh, to be moved, to be informed has really been a fantastic thing during this pandemic. So thank you to everybody for their work. Cheers.
We want to thank Paramount Studios, where the Ace office calls home, and according to Jenny McCormick, where you can feel the spirit of old Hollywood blowing you kisses from the past. Let's dive into that spirit.
This is not just another streaming app.
You might want to hold on to something.
This is a mountain of original, bingeable entertainment. This is chilling, unsettling, and brilliantly bonkers. This is weird and hilarious, stylish and cheeky. This is a joy to watch, a wonder to explore, and a peak TV experience. Live sports, breaking news, and a mountain of entertainment. Paramount Plus, now streaming.
Now, if you like what you see all around me, you're gonna love the geniuses who imagined it and brought it to life at Phoenix Creative Group. Let's take a look behind the scenes at the making of this very pre-show. Too soon? This year, ACE is presenting the Golden Eddie Award to a director unmatched in his talent and influence, Spike Lee. Editing for a Spike Lee joint must be a process unlike any other. Here to talk with Barry Alexander Brown and Adam Goff about their experiences cutting with Spike, please welcome from The Hollywood Reporter, Carolyn Jardine.
Thanks, John. Okay, we're here with Barry Alexander Brown, ACE, and Adam Goff, ACE. Barry, you've been working with Spike for decades. Tell us a little bit about what makes a successful collaboration.
Well, yeah, Spike and I go back, actually we go back 40 years. We met 40 years ago.
Right.
This summer in Atlanta. I mean, really for us, we kind of grew up together in the business. So, I mean, I think that that's special in terms of creating a very organic, very tight relationship.
Would you share a favorite story from Do the Right Thing?
I mean, there's so many stories from Do the Right Thing. I mean, but when we made that movie, Spike and I were really pretty young and pretty green. And neither one of us realized that I should be editing in the process while Spike is shooting. And so I simply didn't, you know. I mean, I would look at dailies and dailies every night with him, which was really great in those days that we could look at dailies, which you really don't do very much anymore, like project dailies and watch them every day. So, you know, I waited until the film was shot, and then for the next 6 weeks was really this concentrated, let's get this film cut, you know, and it actually cut pretty quick, pretty easy, pretty quick.
What was the toughest scene? Do you remember?
You know, I mean, the whole scene that was probably the most difficult for me was the riot scene, because you just had to get everything, all the beats right. And they shot over multiple days, you know, the burning of Sal's Pizzeria, you know, and so I think that for me was the roughest scene. I mean, the script was such a great script. I mean, Spike, it was almost kind of this perfect script in which it's like dominoes. You set one thing in motion and it knocks the rest of them down. And that was that script. And you want to tell a story like that from beginning to end, that everything impacts each other.
So Adam, tell me about your latest collaboration with Spike, The Five Bloods.
Oh, well, for that, I was fortunate that Barry wasn't available, so Spike was in the business for another editor. So Spike was a fan of Roma, and the call pretty much came from there. And I must say, Barry was fantastic, because we were both doing award stuff at the time, as he was doing Black Klansman, and I asked Barry for advice and what the working relationship is with Spike, and he was great with his time, and has been
we
great.
ran into each other in LA.
We did, at the Eddies.
Yeah.
And then I was very fortunate that Barry was then not available again for American Utopia. And now I actually get the opportunity of working with him on the current project, NYC Epicenters, that we're co-editing.
And tell us a little bit about the process of working on The Five Bloods. I believe you said that you were involved very early on in pre-pro.
Yeah, so Spike had me come out 10 days before we started shoot, and he wanted me at the script read, so at the table read, and also at the pre-production meetings, which I've never been included before as an editor. And it was something that I learned very quickly, is Spike's process is all interweaved, and his mind is on editing even before he starts shooting. So during the main pre-production meeting before kicking off, which was a hall with every HOD and everyone involved with the shoot, Spike was sat at the head of the table, and he had a notebook, and the first note he wrote, he crept around the meeting and gave it to me, the editor, which was scene one, here are already his thoughts and how I should tackle it. And, you know, he had the shoot in his mind, he knew what he wanted to do, and he was already onto the edit before even rolling cameras.
Each of you, 3 adjectives you would use to describe Spike.
Smart, talented, loyal.
I was going to say supportive, adventurous, and joyful. Something which I love about Spike is you know exactly how the edit is going. He's vocal. You know, when it's going well, he will celebrate an edit, and that is just, it's marvelous. I love it.
Okay, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the show. And I'm going to go get my
Thank you.
beverage now.
Hey, I am too. I'm out.
Cheers. Congratulations, Spike.
Sam Pollard cut some of Spike Lee's formative and most influential films, like Mo Better Blues, Jungle Fever, and Clockers. Jazz Tangcay from Variety recently caught up with Sam to talk about his perspective on working with Spike. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Jazz Tangcay, Senior Artisans Editor with Variety, and I'm so excited to have Sam Pollard here today, producer, director, editor, and Spike Lee collaborator. So Sam, I want to hear from you how you first met Spike Lee.
Well, it's a really funny story. I was living in Boston at the time, working on the series Eyes on the Prize, too. And one day in my apartment in the Back Bay section, my son, my 10-year-old son, Jason, the phone rang and he picked up the phone and he said, "Dad, Spike Lee's on the phone." And my first reaction was, "Jason, don't pull my leg, man." Because I had just seen Do the Right Thing. And I said, "Spike Lee's calling me." But sure enough, it was Spike. And he had just got a recommendation from one of his people that he wanted me to edit what was then called Love Supreme, which became Mo Better Blues. And the story is I turned him down the first time. I said I was too busy. I said I won't be available. And I figured that I would never hear from him again. And then about 2 months later, around Labor Day of, I guess it was 1988, Spike called me again. We ended up meeting up at Martha's Vineyard in Oak Bluffs. We spent 35 minutes together. And I always say to everybody, Spike didn't talk me into the job. I talked myself into the job because, as you know, Spike sometimes doesn't say a lot. So by the end of that 35-minute conversation in his coffee shop, I had signed on to do Mo Better Blues.
And the rest, as they say, is history. So Sam, you mentioned Girl 6. Let's talk about the sequence before we get to the Wonder Wheel at Coney Island.
Well, one of my favorite sequences that I edited in one of Spike Lee's films was in Girl 6. It's when Teresa Randall, who plays the Girl 6 sex phone operator, heads out to Coney Island to meet one of her gentleman callers she's been, talking to on the phone. And Spike has shot these fantastic dolly shots where she's supposed to be, the bench is empty, and then I dissolve to another dolly shot, and she'd be on the bench, and I dissolve, and she'd be on the bench, and then it would stop on her back. Then I cut to a reverse shot of her where you see her on her face, and she's looking up out at the ocean, and she moves her pen on her coat, and then we cut to her in the Wonder Wheel, and that music, which is "How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore" by Prince. It's just like, wow. Spike's use of music is something that really stands out in all of his films, going all the way back from Do the Right Thing all the way up to the Black Klansman. So really, really fantastic. And the other thing I think that's special that people don't really sometimes appreciate because his films deals with such social and political issues and racial issues, but that he's a consummate craftsperson, a consummate filmmaker. His understanding of how to use the camera, how to find the right shot, how to create camera movement, how to, make sure that he covers a scene, but not in such a way that it's like television, but it's covered in a way that you can get the emotion and the drama of it in the editing process. So Spike's sensibility as a craftsperson, as a filmmaker, is extraordinary. And I would finally say this to the world to hear from Sam Pollard, that Spike Lee is a world-class filmmaker, par excellence. One of the best that's ever come out to make movies. And subconsciously, in some of the films that I have directed, some of the documentaries I have directed, when I go back and watch them, I can see the influence that Spike has had on me. I thought he had an influence on me in terms of his political perspective, but his cinematic perspective is really very, very strong.
I love that. And we talking about his influence, what was his cinematic influence on you? As also, you're directing films, you've produced films, you're still editing. So talk about the cinematic influence that Spike Lee has had on your career.
It's kind of fascinating. I just finished a film called Black Art in the Absence of Light. And I had set up these shots with all of these major artists where I would have these shots of these, what I call these tableau shots, where I would do a slow zoom in with my camera person, my DP. And I realized after I sort of was cutting the film together that I sort of got that idea from watching how Spike uses those dolly shots. If you watch Inside Man, If you watch Mo Better Blues, in every film he has those fantastic dolly shots. And one of the other things that he does that's pretty extraordinary, he will create a shot where you don't have to cut, where he will have continuous movement, which I've tried to do in some of the films I've worked on. So I've said this before and I'll say it again, Spike Lee is one of the great world filmmakers, not just a great American filmmaker, but he's one of the great world filmmakers of all time.
I love that. Sam Pollard, thank you so much for paying tribute and honoring and celebrating the incredible filmmaker that is Spike Lee.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
In the before times, we always had Tribeca West to thank for sponsoring the Eddie Awards pre-show cocktail party. So let's raise a virtual glass to them right now. We look forward to cocktailing with them again in 2022. Next, we want to thank our good friends at Warner Brothers for being one of our original sponsors, never missing a year, and always hosting a big ol' entourage at the in-person event. We're looking forward to being shoulder to shoulder with you again soon. Until then, let's take a look at this. All right, folks, it's shout-out time. Here we go. Our friends at Avid are our platinum sponsors this year, and we want to thank them for their incredible generosity. Now, there are two things that got me through this pandemic: toilet paper and Netflix. And while I love a good two-ply, Netflix is really what brings me joy. And thank you to our gold sponsor, Picture Shop, an award-winning, state-of-the-art production house. While we're at it, let's give love to all of our sponsors for this year's Eddies. A huge thank you to Oscar Lazoya and Ash Steele for their dedication to ACE's annual student competition. And this is also a great time to remember our past president, Randy Roberts, who roped them into volunteering, not realizing it was a lifetime appointment. A special shout out to Evercast, who saved us in 2020, making it possible to work with producers and directors in real time from our various locations around the world. Now that we know it's possible, editors might never need to go back to languishing for hours in cutting rooms, waiting for their bosses to show up. A special thanks to Photochem, who in years past have hosted our Blue Ribbon screenings. We miss your incredible theaters and your yummy sandwiches. Looking forward to enjoying both of them again soon. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, we want to recognize and share gratitude with the incredible ACE staff and Eddie Awards co-producers, Marika Ellis, Gemelin Idmalau Brunson, and Jasmine Staley. You couldn't know a better bunch, and the time and talent they share makes ACE a better place. A fun fact for you, this is a post-production weekend. We'd love to congratulate the nominees and winners of the Motion Picture Sound Editors Golden Reel Awards, who held their ceremony last night. And you still have the opportunity to buy tickets to the Cinema Audio Society's ceremony honoring George Clooney with their Filmmaker Award later tonight. The link to buy tickets is being pinned right in the chat window for you. ACE salutes our partners in sound. The story wouldn't be complete without you. And speaking of fun facts, there may be a few interesting tidbits you didn't know about the films edited by your favorite feature nominees. Let's find out.
So the project that I have the privilege of working on right now is an upcoming film from Marvel called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And it's very personally meaningful to work on this project for me because Shang-Chi will be the first Asian American superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I'm currently editing an animated feature for Netflix where we have crew Zoom meetings that give us an opportunity to bond with coworkers that we have actually never seen in person. There's usually a game involved with this competitive group, and we have some artists with an encyclopedic knowledge of film that allows them to call out film titles with a single image of a movie character's home. I never win those games.
One of the interesting things about working on The Dissident was seeing some of the things that we show in the film come to life and affect us directly. Basically, one of the elements in the film is how the Saudi government has internet trolls that harass and attack people online. We saw attacks on social media. For instance, I got threatening messages once I posted a trailer of the film. So to see us kind of get into the eye of the storm and experience that in the flesh was maybe a little scary, but also probably showed us that we're doing something right and we're ruffling the right feathers.
The film is centered around the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, and so there's no getting away from that. So finding a way to build a compelling story on our way to that ending was a really compelling and interesting creative challenge. One of the most interesting challenges I've had in my career.
Not only did we get to do this amazing project and tell the story of Jamal Khashoggi and expose this truth, but also just through the process, we all became really, really good friends.
One of the great pleasures of working with Sasha is the spontaneity of the process. COVID-19 wasn't even a thing when this movie was originally conceived.
When COVID hit, the storyline of Borat had to completely be revamped.
Like so many films, we were shut down in April 2020.
We shut down and reassessed how we were going to complete the film.
We were trawling through some dailies and found a moment that had been shot at CPAC, in fact, just a month prior to the shutdown, which was Mike Pence talking about the Republican administration's preparedness.
Months later, when Trump contracted COVID and his condition was unclear, we didn't know we'd have to miraculously come up with another storyline.
We had the deadline of the election to finish the movie. And so we had a very frantic, hectic 7 months to retool the movie and embrace all things pandemic, I guess. And in fact, I think that's where a lot of the vitality and energy came from in terms of the movie.
Thanks to modern medicine and monoclonal antibodies, Borat, the movie, was saved.
As part of the release of All In, Amazon launched a nationwide bus tour. And at every stop along the tour, they set up tables with voter registration information and voter eligibility status information, distributing materials to over 1 million potential voters. So we'd like to think that we played one small part in the fact that in the 2020 presidential election, Americans voted in record numbers. Over 158 million people voted. That's the highest turnout in 120 years. Now, we just have to keep it going.
All right, my friends, I have had a blast here with you today, but it's time that I bid you adieu so that you can say bonjour to the 71st Annual Eddie Awards. It's going to be amazing, and you don't have to worry about a thing. Put your feet up, have a snack, ignore missed cues or flubbed lines. We're doing this all in one take, people. Let's start the show.